Okay, thank you, and welcome again to the launch of the discursive glossary, memory, migration, and relationality, MeMiRe for short. So the initiators of the discursive glossary of MeMiRe are myself, Sarah Jones, Monica Yatel, and Maria-Roca-Lizarazu, who are also here today. So the idea behind this glossary came from our conversations and collaborations with one another. So each of us is working on topics that in many ways are quite distinct from one another, but also which touch on in different ways on these three intersecting fields of memory, migration, and relationality. So this is the way that we think that these things are connected when I say they're intersecting. So memory, to start with that term, be it kind of individual memory, social memory, family memory, communicative, political, or cultural memory, is always, we would argue, produced within a relationship of some kind. That might be the relationship between the past and its influence on the present, the self in relation to society, relationships of family and kinship in the transgenerational transmission of memory, the memory of one past in dialogue with the memory of another, the national in connection with the transnational. And when we study memory, it's these interconnections between these different things that are often at the center of our analysis. Relationality is also deeply embedded in the study of migration, citizenship, and integration. So these are also social, cultural, and political phenomena that we would say call for a relational approach, an approach that can take into account the dynamics between host society and migrant, memories of home and experiences of the new country, the diaspora, and the communities of origin. And it's here, I think, that we complete the circle as we see also the role of memory in the study of migration. And that's particularly come to the fore in research on diasporic or exile communities in which memory, individual, family, cultural memory, plays a key role in sustaining connections to the country of origin. However, there's also emerging work on memories of migration in post-migrant societies and the role of memory and heritage in migrant identities. So I've described these research areas as fields because each of them is more than a discipline. Instead, they're areas that bring together multi and interdisciplinary work. And we think that's essential, that if we are to fully kind of understand the complexity of these phenomena, that we do that interdisciplinary work. However, as we all know, I'm sure many of you are working in these fields, interdisciplinary exchange can be really challenging. And one of those key challenges is the lack of a common vocabulary or even kind of multiple uses of the same term across disciplines. And that's where our discursive glossary aims to come in. So we have these 5 aims. Firstly, fostering interdisciplinary exchange and discussion by highlighting different disciplinary understandings of key terms in a short and accessible format. Highlighting the ways in which memory, migration, and relationality are connected, and promoting further research and practice in these areas. Allowing researchers and practitioners to explore different meanings and understandings of key terms. So our goal ultimately is to have more than one entry on key terms and also to encourage comments from those reading the blog. And finally, providing a quick and short form outlet for scholars and practitioners to try out new concepts and ideas. So the idea is that you can write something relatively short and have it published on the blog before in a timescale that is much shorter than the usual academic timescales of publication. And also gain feedback on these new ideas through comments and responses. So then that 5th point there is the link to the blog and the entries that we have so far, which you may have already looked at, and I'd encourage you to look at later on if you haven't done so. These are the entries that we have so far, and some of the authors are in the virtual room. So we have Empathy, Theatre and Performance by Sam Mijka, Moral Remembrance by Leah David, Childhood and Cultural Memory by Debbie Finfold, Memory Markets by Mark Wolfgram, Monuments and Memorials by Anna Saunders, and then under Migration, we have Exile by Monica Yatel, Post-Migrant Societies by Maria-Roca-Lizarazu, Diaspora by Eduardo Tarsis. And then under relationality, we have my entry on collaborative memory, and then Lorraine Ryan's piece on memory and negotiating space. So with this launch, beyond telling you about it, we're also asking you to get involved. So one way to do that is to offer us a contribution. So you can contact us at the email address there to discuss your ideas for a contribution. We're very open to different ideas on what might make for a good key term on the blog. So it's around 800 to 1,000 words on a key concept or theme, plus key references. And that could be something that you think's missing, and there's a lot that's missing so far. We're kind of working on building out the glossary. Or if there's a concept already included and you sort of from your disciplinary or contextual perspective, you think, okay, I think about that differently, then that would also be really interesting to us. So a different take on a concept that's already there. Also, if you're not quite ready to write a full contribution, then please do add comments to the blog. We're hoping to kind of get a dialogue going on the contributions that are already there. And to be confirmed in terms of dates and schedule and so on, we'd also kind of like to organise mini workshops along the lines of this one, but more involving discussion between authors of interlinked concepts and ideas. So as I said, what we're going to do now is to give you a flavour of the entries by introducing 3 authored by ourselves, which fall into the categories of memory, migration and relationality. So Monica is going to talk about exile, Maria about post-migrant societies, and finally I'm going to introduce my new concept of collaborative memory, and there'll then be a chance for questions and discussion. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.